week. And Cindy, you know that we're thinking about you for Thursday. You know that. You know that. You know that. With prayers and all kinds of good wishes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Morning, Cindy.
Morning or
You know,
afternoon.
it's getting crowded here. All right. I mean, we can handle it, but it's nice. It's nice. Oh, there is Risa. Hello. Where are you? We're in the same apartment. It's a small apartment. I don't know where you are.
She's probably swimming laps.
She's muted.
Oh,
She's not
no, she didn't swim today. Okay, we are going to get started. So we begin with Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Okay, it's great to be back. It's good to be with you. What fun. It is a beautiful day, and it's a beautiful day between two rainy days. So yesterday rain, tomorrow rain, but because we're doing Mussar, it's a sunny day. That's a good thing. I hope that you've had a good week. Let's review, as we do, couple of the key points. I guess one thing that I've been driving home a lot, and I haven't bored myself yet, but I think it's still really important, that when you look at Judaism, you are looking at a tradition with many Torahs. And Mussar is one of those Torahs. Torah Mussar is one way of understanding the fundamental teachings of our tradition. We have the Torah of the rabbis with the Torah of the philosophers. I've done this before, but I don't care about you. I like it. I think that's really good. And then this wonderful statement by Salanter, and it is something that we live with. If everyone knows what it means to be good, why is it so hard to be good? We have to hold on to that because it is hard to be good. It is hard to be good. One of the things that Mussar wants us to be able to develop, now we're doing technical language here, is a toolbox of ethical behavior. A toolbox of ethical behavior. We're going to be focusing heavily today on humility, and I'm going to teach a great course. No, that's not humble. Well, we're going to be focusing on humility today, but it isn't just so that we can pick up a little information about how Mussar approaches humility. It is so that we can put humility in our toolbox. Everything that we're going to be talking about, and it's going to be very practical from here to the end of this series, these are practices, not theories. These are things that we need to be able to do. I mentioned to you earlier that, and in truth, as I began studying and struggling to prepare, I found myself being aware of my behavior in a way that I had not been before. You can't read this material without having the material seep into the way you conduct your lives. And to me, this is huge. We aren't just gathering here so that we can fill out an essay later on what did you learn? What did you learn? We want to fill our toolbox. Last summary item. Too much of Judaism from a Mussar perspective, too much of Judaism is focused on what we ought to do to keep God happy. And not enough is focused on what is called mitzvot bein adam lechavero, the commandments, the obligations that shape our relationships with other people. Mussar wants to help us develop a way to relate to other people and a way to relate to ourselves. It's not saying that Shabbat and Kashrut and Yom Kippur and whatever aren't important, but it is saying that we have to shift a focus on who we are, what we are, and how we relate to other people. So a key Mussar question, it's going to be today when we get into the material. How do I apply this in my life? We're going to be talking about anava, the first middah, the first soul trait. Remember middah, M-I-D-D-A-H? Middah, soul trait, very important word in the study of Mussar. How am I going to apply this in my life? How am I going to take this middah and use it to make me more the person I want to be and relate to others better? Most of us here are members of Wilshire and of university. A Mussar question would be, how can we take what we're encountering here and use it to shape the behavior of a congregation? That's a serious, serious question. It's a secret. I don't want you to tell anybody. But sometimes congregations can react coldly, unfeelingly, or even with a degree of cruelty toward members. Sometimes members within a congregation can react toward other members of the congregation in ways which might not make us feel proud. The Mussar question in all of this, it's practical stuff. What can we do in our small circle? It's not a mass movement. What can we do in our small circle to make relationships better? Mussar is a discipline. It requires thought. Let's say we're building up to the humility thing. Let's say that we want to work on humility. The Mussar approach would be every morning when you get up for a month, think about, well, I want to work on my Middah of humility. How am I going to do this today? How am I going to do it? Every morning when you get up. It's not the same as doing yoga, I admit, okay? Or Pilates, or to get on the Peloton. All of those are good things. I can't afford a Peloton yet, but fine. But if you're treating these Mussar midot, these ethical traits seriously, and you want to work on humility, what am I going to? I have a meeting today. What am I going to do in that meeting so that I can toughen my ethical muscle memory, that I can do better with me? Well, how can I do that during that meeting? I'm going to be on a Zoom call with a bunch of friends later on. Today, I wake up, what can I do to help become more comfortable with this middah or that middah? Bottom line, Mussar doesn't say that every one of us has a neshama, a soul. Mussar says that every one of us is a neshama. And we have to be able to help ourselves become all that we are capable of being. Okay, last little bit of history and then jumping forward. When Mussar got started in the 19th century, I mentioned this before, as a very elitist thing for the well-to-do, the privileged group. But finally, it worked its way into the most fervent Lithuanian yeshivot, where they have the strictest academic requirements for study, to be in a Lithuanian, Litvakischer yeshiva is a high level of achievement. Mussar worked its way in. I'm going to have to promise you're not going to share this. Every once in a while, I am oblivious. Please keep that to yourself. So I met this really lovely Orthodox rabbi, and I was working with him on world Zionist activities. Lovely guy. And sitting around and arguing about some arcane Zionist thing. So I said, what do you do? You work at a yeshiva. What do you do? He says, I'm the mashgiach ruchani. Stanley Clueless. Mashgiach ruchani. I am the supervisor of spiritual life. I thought that was nice. The rabbi was a beautiful man. His name is Yosef Blau. Really beautiful, beautiful guy. That's fine. You're the mashgiach. Somebody, it's like in charge of student life, right? You organize ping pong tournaments or whatever it is to help students function. It wasn't until a considerable time later that I realized that the mashgiach ruchani is the Mussar teacher in a traditional yeshiva. He runs classes every week, breaks the students away from another page of Talmud, and spends a couple of hours every week dealing with midot, with Mussar education, so that they will become not only brilliant scholars of Talmud, they'll become what we call in Latin a mensch. They'll become nice people. And in his yeshiva, that's a professional job to help the students become better people, not just better students. So I think that that's great. Let us move on. Finally, here we go. We are in the Middah of humility. And let's see what we got here. And we got here. And okay. And we have here. And let's see what we can do. I did it last week. Why can't I do it this week? What I want to pick up is the word for humility. And the word for humility is anava. Oh, there we go. I knew that I'd be able to eventually find it. Anava. And anava, okay, big word, anava. Anava means humility. So if we're going to talk about humility, about humility, we're going to use the word anava. So I'm going to ask you to go into the chat and tell me what humility, when you hear the word humility, what sparked? What do you see? What do you feel? What is sparked by that? Okay, in the chat, put in, someone says you got to work on humility. By the way, anava is the basic first middah of all of Mussar. Everything starts with anava. So what does it mean? What does it mean to you? What do you hear? Okay, from Sam, opposite to excessive pride. Anava. What does it mean? Where are you? When you hear someone say anava, anava is important. What else do we have? Okay, getting the ego out of the way. Thank you, Kelsey. Getting the ego out of the way. A person, Devorah, a person who doesn't put herself, missed it, it moved. Oh, above others. Daphne, humble. Mara, being humble. Leaving space for others. That's big. Leaving space for others. A sense of thinking less about yourself. Merle, you aren't above others. Anava, you aren't above others. Being there for others. The Mussar approach would be, don't take up too much space. Whatever you do, wherever you go, be aware that you don't take up too much space. Leave space for others. I see here also, Fern, openness to other ideas, to other people, because they are just as valuable as you. Thank you. Yes. Occupy a rightful space, neither too much nor too little. Focus neither on your virtues or on the faults of others. Don't build yourself up. Don't tear other people down. I know this may sound strange, and I'm absolutely committed to being above contemporary issues in this course. You are not the point of it all. It's not all about me. And it's not an act of humility, but an act of honesty for me to say to you, that's a hard thing for me to work on. When I lead a group, a teacher group, whatever, my ego can easily get in the way. Is that true for some of you? It can easily get in the way. When you get up in the morning, if you're spending a month working on the middah, the virtue of anava, what can I do to keep my ego under control? By the way, that's true for a person. That's true for any group, racial, national, any group. Don't put your... I had a conversation yesterday. I love to do this, especially, you're dealing with high school kids. And I said, do you ever look at a globe? Yeah, sure. I know what a globe is. Okay. And so what's at the top of the globe? Well, it's the North Pole. And then what countries are right there under the North Pole? Oh, there's, like the United States and Canada, and there's all of Europe and Russia, all that. I said, if you were looking down from outer space, is that the way the Earth would look? With north, where we are, always in the important top place. No. Thanks, Harvey. No. Putting the North Pole, calling that the North Pole, and having the globe built so that the richest countries of the world are at the top is a choice. The globe could have been the other way around. And Argentina could have been at the top. Nothing wrong with Argentina. We have to stop looking at everything from the point of view of where we are. We are not the point of it all. The target for the statement is narcissism is a serious enemy. Narcissism has to be controlled. You can't do Mussar if you are enwrapped in narcissism. Narcissism is the exact opposite of what we're talking about. I am not the point of it all. Once you master that, you can start mastering the rest of Mussar. So I referred to anava as our first middah. Middah, we've used that word a number of times. A virtue, a middah, a quality, midot. A middah is a trait of our soul. There are endless midot. There are endless traits to our soul. And the richness of Mussar is how it arranges those midot. What sets us apart from everyone else is the degree to which each middah lives and functions within us. Talked last week, my favorite topic, because people all know that anger is wrong. Here, Stanley Davids is going to take on living life dangerously. And I would appreciate it if you not report me. But here it goes. I assume I have universal agreement. Rambam. I'm taking on Maimonides, right? I mean, what does that take? Okay. Rambam says one should always avoid anger. Anger is always wrong. Mussar says, Rambam, you're wrong. Because anger is not always wrong. With the chat, when can anger be right? In the chat, when can anger be right? Well, Miriam, I see you. Oh, okay, I'm going to just unmute yourself, Miriam, out of respect, of course. Go ahead. Unmute.
I think anger is sometimes right. And not only that, it should be called for at times. When we see a terrible injustice before our eyes, we are told not to stand idly by. So therefore, which we have all seen on television, we don't have to repeat about George Floyd, plus other injustices that we saw before our very eyes on January 6th. They went beyond injustice. They were criminal. It was called upon by Judaism for us not to stand idly by, to be righteously angry.
Okay, Miriam, you and I have exchanged a number of emails. I am very wary of saying, the cat just walked in. I am very wary of saying Judaism says, because there are many Torot, there are many expressions of what we're expected to do. Again, I'm not doing politics, but I am aware that in the Haredi community in Israel this week, they're setting parts of their cities on fire in protest against the quarantines imposed by the government to try to contain the virus. That's an expression of Judaism, and they say they are speaking in the name of Judaism. We have to, out of anava, be careful about what we say Judaism requires, because it's varied and it's different. I could say to you, Miriam, my understanding of Judaism is that this is wrong. I could do that. I could do that. But boy, am I wary of saying this is what Judaism requires. Slavery. Slavery. We had Jewish religious leaders prior to the Civil War defending slavery. And they happened to be in the South, but they were defending slavery in the name of Judaism. I'm not going to go into this further, but golly, we have to be careful about what we assert Judaism is, because it's many things, some of which I am very uncomfortable with, most of which I embrace and love and try to live. So we're talking about, okay, Sam, being moved to action when injustice is rife, which is why anger is okay. It's okay when there is injustice, how you handle, Merle, it's not just, it's okay to be angry, but you have to control the anger. Yes. 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 So I'll give you a Talmud thing. In the Talmud, it's written, when you see anybody acting out in public in great anger, turn away from them. Turn away from them. Anger necessary at times, anger required at times, anger in balance and in respect is required as well. So you're going to say, hey, Stan, give me an example from the Torah. I'm glad you asked because I have one. Okay? I did come prepared today. Do you remember the incident of the golden calf? Yeah? Remember the golden calf? And in the golden calf episode, God becomes, I have to be careful, but we're talking about divinity here, peeved. God becomes peeved. And God says to Moses, step back from me so that I can destroy them in my wrath. And if you read the text, Moses talks God down from that tree. Gives all kinds of reasons why God shouldn't destroy the whole people. We don't have to analyze the reasons. God allowed the divine self to go overboard with anger, and Moses pulled God back. God required Moses before God could calm down, because wrath, anger without control is destructive. when Mussar looks at anger, Mussar says, where is it on the continuum of your values? Anyone know any people who are perpetually angry? Oh, I see. Oop. Yeah, I saw Devorah nodding her head up and down, and I'm not going to ask you, Devorah. No, I'm not going to do it. But I'm thinking of asking, but I won't do it. You know, people who are permanently angry, they are angry at everything. Where is any middah, any value on your continuum, on the continuum? We are going to talk about Mussar as tikkun midot hanefesh. I'd like you to think of the soul, the neshama that we are. I'd like you to think of it as a machine with moving parts that can be broken and need to be repaired. I know that's not an excellent way to look at the soul. I mean, some of you may even say it's a terrible way to look at the soul. Okay. We have multiple midot, values, operating inside of us. They need fixing, they need repairing, they are real, and we have to find a way to make it work. Thank you. Yes, yeah, she's very interested in Mussar. When we think of anava, we think of humility. Yes, we think of humility. This is designed to give one humility. How about, what if I disenroll you? Okay, she's lost her curriculum. Okay. Does anava require you to be humble? Do you have to become a nobody in order to achieve the middah of anava? This is huge. To be able to get the sense that we view each middah as a continuum, right? We said this, a continuum, like anger, a continuum. The big principle of anava, a continuum. Does Mussar want me to become a nobody and thus a good Mussar person? Anyone want to toss something into the chat? I have a story to tell, but I'm waiting on that. I'm sure you all know the story. It's less becoming a no one and more about seeing yourself in the broader context of life. Fine. All right, here's the story. It's Yom Kippur. The rabbi and the cantor are before the ark. By the way, I have to rock back and forth when I tell these stories because that's how I tell these stories. Okay, it's Yom Kippur. The rabbi and the assistant rabbi and the cantor are in front of the ark. The rabbi, being this great spiritual leader, bangs at his chest and says, "Oi, ich bin a garnished. I'm a nothing." The assistant rabbi, looking at the boss, "Oi, ich bin a garnished. I am a nothing." The cantor, magnificent voice, a beautiful human being, with a sound that cracks the heavens, which I am not going to pretend to imitate. "Oi, ich bin a garnished." The senior rabbi looks at the junior rabbi. Look who thinks he's agonished. Forget that, because no, do not remember that story. But do we have to become a nothing in order to be humble? It's about becoming part of the community and giving yourself to others, sharing. I will paraphrase. Ray says, an outside source that is important for me. We ask how God can work through me. I am weak and sinful. How can God work through me? So let me tell you a story about how the world came to be. Some of you know this story, maybe all of you. I don't mind. According to the Kabbalah, according to Jewish mysticism, in the beginning, there was God. All was God, and God was all. But God, for reasons known only to the divine, decided that God wanted to bring something else into this cosmos. But all was God, and God was all. So how does one bring anything into what is plenum? It's full, it's packed, it is, everything is that is, it's all done. There's only one thing God can do. God undertakes what is known in the Kabbalah as tzimtzum. How many of you have heard of that phrase, tzimtzum? Okay, lot of response. Great, okay. Contraction. God contracts the divine self into the divine self. And only then, in the vacuum that's left, only then can something new emerge. Why is this an Anavah story? Why? Help me. Why is this an Anavah story? Why? Why is this an Anavah story? Betsy says we can't become a nothing. We are already a spark of the divine. We have to recognize the divine within us. When we connect the small s self to the larger s self, we can understand that. We are a drop in the ocean, but every drop means something super. Why does God have to contract? And why is that a value for us? Why? Why? Oh, Devorah, we're going to get to yours. Devorah, it's in my curriculum. Honestly, it's coming up. I got that. You're right. I guess I feel good. Somebody actually, there's a logic to what I'm saying. Fern, we need to make space for others. It's not just God withdrawing into the divine self in order for there to be a universe. But we have to stop filling every space so that other people can exist. It's a style of leadership. I can't imagine in today's world someone being a successful leader without the trait of Anavah. I see that Lisa Beth says, even God has to contract in order for there to be something bigger. Yes. If we want our world to be richer and better and bigger and other than what it is today, and even if we want to lead the process, we have to make room. The leader who tries to fill every space. Crushes. Steve Miller. A parent has to have room to love every new child without diminishing love for others. Yes, Steve. But the love for one child is never identical to the love for another child. That love is always different. And it's something very, very important to be able to understand. Leadership requires anava. I quote the prophet Micah. It has been told thee, O human beings, what is good and what God does require of you. What does it say? To do justly, to love mercy, and yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I saw Devar. Yes, and to walk humbly with your God. It's there. So now I am going to read you something which I found very moving. And no, I'm going to avoid comment. Jonathan Sacks, the late Rabbi Dr. Lord Jonathan Sacks, former chief rabbi of the UK, I think we all know. He wrote the following in his autobiography. And I'm quoting now, so I'm just reading the words as he wrote them. As a young man full of questions about faith, I traveled to the United States where I had heard there were outstanding rabbis. As part of my humility, I'd like to point out he never contacted me, but fine. Okay. I'd heard that there were outstanding rabbis. I met many, but I also had the privilege of meeting the greatest Jewish leader of my generation, the late Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Okay, he goes on. Wherever I've traveled, I heard tales of his extraordinary leadership, many verging on the miraculous. He was, I was told, one of the outstanding, charismatic leaders of our time. I resolved to meet him if I could. I did meet him. And I was utterly surprised. He was certainly not charismatic in any conventional sense. He was quiet, self-effacing, understated. One might hardly have noticed him had it not been for the reverence in which he was held by his disciples. But my meeting with him changed my life. He was a world-famous figure. I was an anonymous student from 3,000 miles away. Yet in his presence, I seemed to be the most important person in the world. He asked me about myself. He listened carefully. He challenged me to become a leader, something I had never contemplated before. Quickly, it became clear to me that he believed in me more than I believed in myself. As I left the room, this is the key statement from Rabbi Sacks. When I left the room, it occurred to me that the room had been filled with my presence and his absence. That's, you seem to be back. We were talking about absence. Perhaps, Sacks goes on, that's why listening to others is a religious act. Another beautiful statement. Can you hold that? Can you take that in? Listening to others is a religious act. Knowing that greatness is measured by how we self-efface, not how we self-impose. Greatness isn't whether we can make the crowd shout for us. Greatness is how we are open to the others. He goes on, there was no grandeur in the Lubavitcher Rebbe's manner, but neither was there any false modesty. He was serene, dignified, majestic, a man of transcending humility. I love the way this ends. Who gathered you up in his embrace and taught you to look up. Wow. Wow. We're talking about anava. We were asked by Devor to mention this, and this is where it comes up in the written curriculum. In the rabbinic teachings, Violet, Devor, you tell it. You know this, Devor, please.
Well, actually, I wasn't the first one because, hold on, I'm looking for it. Risa put in, I am dust and will return to dust. In my other pocket, I'm a little lower than the angels. And I said, I heard it slightly differently, that in one pocket, I am but dust and ashes. And in the other pocket, the world was created for me. And that's the version that I heard.
This is mainstream Jewish ethical posture. What does it mean to you? Help me understand. What does it mean, two pockets? One, I'm a little lower than the angels. One, I'm dust and ashes. What does that say to you?
It says to me that there are two sides to it. There are two parts. I am not totally unimportant, the dust and ashes, but I am also not the most important thing, but I wouldn't be here if I hadn't been created, if I hadn't been born. And God created us all in his image, her image, their image.
Their image, their image.
So, and I teach fourth grade, and that's one of my things that I like to tell them, that when you look at other people, you are looking into the face of God, and everybody's important and everybody needs to be respected. And it's a hard thing. I mean, I believe that intuitively. I can't always act on it because there are some things that I feel are just really awful, but I try to look for that speck of goodness or whatever in everybody.
Anava, humility, continuum from abject humility to overwhelming ego. And the Mussar approach is to be aware of the continuum and keep moving. You are never finished in your struggle with the Middah. It is a lifetime discipline. As they want you to say 30, for each morning for 30 days, how am I going to do something? This does not exist as a word. Anavistic. Sounds like atavistic, which can't be possible. But how can I do this today? I'm going to be with my class. How can I be less present in my class so that the students can be more present? But at the same time, you don't give the inmates the keys to the asylum. Forgive me, that's an old way to look at it, but you don't do that either, right? You don't do that. But it's a constant struggle. You're dealing at the head of an organization. Merle wrote in the chat a very tough story. Merle, tell us that. Share that with us, please.
I was involved with a major Jewish organization in the years long before Mussar became popular, for lack of better description. And I was told, I was on several of their boards or committees, and I was told that I gave too much away to others and I didn't have a big enough ego. And that was the end of my involvement in that organization, because that wasn't how I was. I mean, my parents never raised me that way. My grandparents never raised me that way. And to me, ego was not important. It was about teaching others and keeping others involved. And so I left. And I haven't regretted it since then.
Mussar probably would say that at times ego is important and it has a place on the continuum. But if the goal in life is to lead through the power of your ego, something's wrong.
It shouldn't be ego, or whatever terminology we would use, should not be the most important thing that you're like. And it goes back to you being above everyone and not allowing other people to be part of the world.
Did you see, okay, here's where I go off my written stuff. So I'm a little, Mank. Does anyone see Mank, the movie? Mankiewicz, a story of what's his name? Rosebud and
Hearst?
pardon?
William Randolph Hearst?
William Randolph Hearst. I knew that you'd come up with it, Steve. Thank you. Okay. So the core of the story is a battle about who gets credit for writing the script. Right? That becomes the core. The battle of sharing credit. Isn't that part of Anava as well? Isn't that part of Anava? Are you able to say, this is a great idea, I did it, I'm moving forward, I did this? By the way, I spoke with Lucy, and she really got me started on this. And I want to say thank you. Does it make us less? Does it make us diminished? On the other hand, if you say, well, it's really all Lucy's, and I did nothing, that doesn't work either. And Anava. Now, another aspect, remember I said that Anava is the core, the foundation, the way, we're running out of time, the way we get started in all of Mussar. And I'm going to offer you a thought that part of Anava is learning how to let go. Learning how to let go. I have many, many friends, colleagues, those who are still alive at this point, gallows humor, who won't retire. Who won't retire. You're 75, you're getting toward 80, you won't retire. Why? I can't let go. I can't let go. When you're a leader, if all that you've done is make yourself indispensable, what kind of a leader are you? What kind of a leader? How does that work? I am so important to this organization that if I step back, that which we've built together over the past 40 years will collapse. I am indispensable. Talk about now anava, talk about ego. By the way, talk about lousy management principles. I mean, that's just a terrible way to function. But I have friends good, lovely people. Betsy writes, yeah, well, Devar, sometimes you want to stay involved. Yes, you don't have to walk away. Take on a senior advisory position. But, okay, Betsy writes, we cannot allow ourselves to be pulled by external circumstances to validate who we are. Ooh. Part of anava is being at peace with the person you are. I don't need to be called chairperson of the board in order to have a life. I don't need that. I don't need that. If we live in humility, Betsy goes on, then we know that we are connected always to God, and therefore we have nothing to prove. Wow. Betsy, you want to teach the class? That's good. Letting go gives us the freedom to be without attachment to the outcome. I want to read that again because I'm going to claim that I wrote it. It's that good. No, I guess I can't do that. Letting go gives us the freedom to be without attachment to the outcome. Wow. Wow. Okay, yeah, and Kate Silverstein, yes, it was Citizen Kane. Yes, I knew that the moment you wrote it. I knew that. We talked last time about the kid in the class who always has their hand up like this, right? Always. Excuse me, no questions been asked. That's okay, but my hand is up, ready to respond. Right? I have called on kids sometimes. Oh God, those of you who are teachers as well. Okay, Freddie, what's the answer? I don't know. Then why was your hand up? Right? I needed to be there. I needed to be recognized. My need to have my ego served was much more important than your need to get a good answer. Okay. Okay. I guess all of that's good. We are not the point of it all. We are not. Someday we're going to be out. I am a Starbucks addict. I confess to that, even though I haven't been physically present in Starbucks since March of 2020. Someday, some of us are going to be sitting together over coffee. You don't have to feel that you must supply the topic of conversation. You don't have to feel that you're required to fill the space. When you make room, the space will be filled. This coming week, we're going to be entering a very fraught topic. It's called Hakarat Tov. That's the next value, the next Middah. Acknowledging the good. In today's world, this is a very difficult thing to do. To acknowledge good, even when the good was carried out by fundamentally rotten human beings. How does one do Hakarat HaTov, recognizing the good that people do without validating their rotten behavior? Tune in next week and we will attempt to navigate this. It's well worthwhile. You have been terrific. We have Steve Miller, stop throwing Groundhog Day at me. You got to be bigger than that. Yes, February 2nd is Groundhog Day, and for me, it is a religious holiday, but not a, come on, we don't have to do that. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. This Friday evening, I know at the Wilshire, they're doing a magnificent Shabbat Shira. Is that right, Risa? Shabbat Shira is the program this Friday. The music is going to be fabulous. But anyway, it is such a privilege to be studying with you and your responsiveness, and you're in there. And so for the next 30 days, work on Anava. Even in San Francisco, work on Anava. Work on how I can put myself on the continuum of humble and ego. Have a great week, everybody. Have a great week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Be in touch. Thank you. Yay.